The crystal chandelier above my parents' dining room table catches the December light filtering through frost-etched windows, casting fractured rainbows across the mahogany surface where my family sits in their carefully orchestrated hierarchy. I smooth my navy blazer and check my watch. 2:47 p.m. On a Saturday I should be spending reviewing quarterly biotech reports instead of enduring what my mother euphemistically calls family time. The annual Beaumont holiday gathering unfolds around me with its familiar choreography of passive aggression and calculated slights, each family member playing their assigned role in a drama I've been cast in since childhood. My father, Richard Beaumont, adjusts his burgundy tie and surveys the room like a general reviewing troops. At 62, he still commands attention, with his silver hair perfectly styled and his Harvard Law class ring catching the light as he gestures. "Campbell," he says, my name leaving his mouth like an afterthought. "Perhaps you can explain to everyone why you're still wasting your time in that laboratory instead of pursuing something meaningful." The conversation around the table, my brother Miles discussing his latest acquisition for his investment firm, my sister-in-law Jessica describing their children's elite private school achievements, falls silent with the precision of a conductor's baton. Have you ever felt that moment when your family reduces your life's work to a footnote in someone else's success story? I've spent the last 6 years developing breakthrough therapies that could change how we treat autoimmune diseases, leading a team of 25 brilliant scientists, earning recognition from the National Institutes of Health. Yet somehow I'm still the family disappointment who plays with test tubes while my brother does real business. The weight of his dismissal settles in my chest like a familiar ache. The same sensation I felt at 8 years old when he missed my science fair victory to attend Miles's Little League game. "Dad, I'm the VP of Product Development at Biotech Innovations," I say, keeping my voice steady despite the tremor I feel building. "We're on track for FDA approval of our lupus treatment next year. The clinical trials show—" He waves his hand as if swatting away a fly. "Clinical trials, laboratory work, it's all academic nonsense. When are you going to do something that matters? Make real money? Miles has already doubled his portfolio this year." Miles smiles, that practiced smile I remember from childhood, the one that says he's won again without having to compete. My grandmother's voice whispers in my memory, soft and warm like the vanilla candles she used to light during our Sunday afternoon talks in her garden. "Campbell, darling, never let them dim your light to make theirs seem brighter." She's been gone for 8 months now, and I miss her fierce loyalty more than I can articulate. While my father criticized my career choices, Grandma Rose celebrated every promotion, every published research paper, every late-night phone call where I shared my latest breakthrough. She understood that changing lives through science was its own kind of magic. The doorbell chimes, interrupting what I know will become another lecture about my impractical career choices. My mother, Claudia, rises gracefully from her seat, her pearl earrings catching the chandelier light. "That must be Mr. Patterson from the estate attorney's office. Rose's affairs, you know." She glides toward the front door with the practiced elegance of someone who's been managing family crises for 37 years of marriage. The mention of my grandmother's name creates a shift in the room's energy, a collective intake of breath that acknowledges the elephant we've all been avoiding since her funeral in April. Mr. Patterson enters our dining room carrying a leather briefcase that looks older than my career, his gray suit impeccable despite the December cold. "Thank you for gathering today. I know this is difficult, but Rose was very specific about the timing." She wanted this done during your traditional holiday gathering. He sets his briefcase on the sideboard with the reverence of someone handling sacred artifacts. Mrs. Rose Beaumont left very detailed instructions about how her estate should be handled, and there are some revelations she wanted to share with the family. My father straightens in his chair, suddenly interested in a way he never was when I describe my latest research breakthrough. Of course, we're all here as she would have wanted. The irony isn't lost on me. He shows more respect for my dead grandmother's wishes than he's ever shown for my living dreams. Mr. Patterson opens his briefcase with practiced precision, removing several manila folders and what appears to be a handwritten letter sealed with wax. The formality feels both ancient and significant, like we're about to witness something that will reshape everything we thought we knew about our family. Before we begin with the formal reading, Mr. Patterson says, adjusting his wire-rimmed glasses, Rose wanted me to share something she wrote specifically about family legacy and what it means to truly support the people we love. He breaks the wax seal with careful deliberation, unfolding pages of my grandmother's distinctive handwriting. The silence in the room is absolute, punctuated only by the tick of the grandfather clock in the hallway and the subtle crackle of the gas fireplace. I feel a strange anticipation building in my chest, like the moment before a crucial experiment reveals its results. What happens when the person who believed in you most leaves you a message that changes everything you thought you knew about your place in your family's story? Mr. Patterson's voice fills the dining room with the authority of someone who's delivered life-changing news to families for 30 years. Rose wanted you to know that she spent considerable time observing how each of her family members treated Campbell's career and achievements. The mention of my name in this context sends a jolt through my system like an unexpected lab result. My father's jaw tightens almost imperceptibly, the same micro-expression I learned to read during childhood when I knew I was about to be lectured about something I'd done wrong. She was particularly troubled, Mr. Patterson continues, unfolding another page of my grandmother's careful script, by what she witnessed during Campbell's promotion celebration last March. My stomach drops. That dinner, the night I announced my promotion to VP of Product Development, when I'd finally reached a level of leadership I'd been working toward for 6 years. Instead of celebration, my father had spent the entire evening explaining to relatives how real business worked, while Miles dominated the conversation with stories about his latest client acquisitions. I'd gone home that night and cried in my shower, feeling simultaneously proud of my achievement and devastated by my family's complete lack of recognition. The letter rustles in Mr. Patterson's hands as he adjusts his glasses. Rose wrote, "I watched my son dismiss Campbell's extraordinary accomplishment, leading breakthrough research that will help millions of people, as if it were a hobby. I watched him beam with pride as Miles talked about making rich people richer, while treating Campbell's life-saving work as an embarrassment to the family name. That night, I made a decision about how my legacy would honor the family member who truly embodies our values of service and innovation." The silence that follows feels thick enough to cut, punctuated only by my mother's sharp intake of breath and the subtle sound of my father's wedding ring tapping against the mahogany table. You know that moment when you realize someone was paying attention to your pain even when you felt completely invisible. My chest tightens with a mixture of grief and validation that threatens to overwhelm me. Grandma Rose had seen everything. The dismissive comments, the redirected conversations, The way my achievements were consistently minimized while Miles's financial successes were celebrated like national holidays. She'd witnessed my father's systematic diminishment of everything I'd worked to build, and apparently she'd been taking notes. "There's more," Mr. Patterson says, his voice gentle but firm. Rose also documented what she called the Thanksgiving incident from 2 years ago. My blood runs cold. I know exactly what he's referring to. The night my father told a room full of extended family that I was still playing scientist, while Miles was building real wealth for his children's future. The humiliation had been so complete, so public, that I'd excused myself and spent 20 minutes crying in my grandmother's bathroom while she brought me chamomile tea and told me that my work mattered more than any stock portfolio. She wrote, "Campbell's research on autoimmune diseases will impact more lives than all of Miles's investments combined, yet Richard treats her like a child playing dress-up in a laboratory." When she tried to explain her latest clinical trial results, he actually rolled his eyes and changed the subject to Miles's golf handicap. "I will not stand by and watch brilliance be dismissed while mediocrity is celebrated." The words land in the room like physical blows. My father's face has gone from confident to guarded, while Miles shifts uncomfortably in his chair for the first time in memory. Mr. Patterson sets down the letter and reaches for a thick manila folder. Based on these observations, Rose made some very specific decisions about her estate distribution. He opens the folder with deliberate precision, revealing documents that look official and substantial. She was quite wealthy, as you know. Her investments in pharmaceutical companies and biotechnology firms over the past 20 years proved extremely prescient. I feel the room's energy shift like the moment before a thunderstorm breaks. My grandmother had been more financially savvy than any of us realized, always deflecting questions about money with comments about living comfortably on Robert's pension and some wise investments. "The total estate value," Mr. Patterson announces, consulting his documents, "is approximately $47 million. The number hangs in the air like a revelation that reframes everything we thought we knew about the quiet woman who grew orchids and made legendary apple pies." My mother's coffee cup rattles against its saucer. Miles stops fidgeting entirely, his attention now laser-focused on Mr. Patterson's words. My father's expression shifts from dismissive to intensely interested, the same look he gets when he's calculating the implications of new information. If you've ever watched your family's true priorities reveal themselves in real time, you know the strange mixture of clarity and disgust that washes over you. Suddenly, everyone in this room cares very much about what Grandma Rose thought and observed. The same woman whose opinions about my career were dismissed as old-fashioned sentimentality has become the most important person in the room through the simple power of having accumulated significant wealth, while everyone assumed she was just a sweet grandmother who lived modestly in her Brookline house. "Now," Mr. Patterson says, opening another folder with ceremonial gravity, "let's discuss how Rose chose to distribute this legacy among her family members." Mr. Patterson lifts a document that looks significantly different from the standard legal papers I'd expect. This one bears official seals and appears to have been prepared by multiple firms. Rose was very methodical in her planning. She engaged 3 different financial advisors, 2 estate attorneys, and even had psychological evaluations conducted to ensure her decisions were sound and legally unassailable. The methodical nature of my grandmother's preparation sends a chill through the room. This wasn't an emotional decision made in grief or anger. This was the calculated strategy of a brilliant woman who understood exactly what she was doing. The distribution is as follows, Mr. Patterson announces, adjusting his reading glasses with the gravity of a judge delivering a verdict. To Richard Beaumont, her son, $50,000 and her collection of first edition novels, with the stipulation that he cannot contest any other portions of this will. My father's face goes through a rapid succession of emotions, confusion, disbelief, and then a slow-burning realization that $47 million minus $50,000 leaves a considerable sum unaccounted for. To Miles Beaumont, her grandson, $100,000 and her antique furniture, with the same non-contestability clause. Miles's mouth opens slightly, his usual composed demeanor cracking like expensive veneer exposed to moisture. $100,000 isn't insignificant, but in the context of a $47 million estate, it's essentially a rounding error. The silence stretches between us like a taut wire, everyone doing the mathematical gymnastics to understand what these numbers mean for the remaining distribution. The remainder of the estate, Mr. Patterson continues with the precision of someone who's rehearsed these words, totaling approximately $46.85 million, goes entirely to Campbell Beaumont, along with all stock portfolios, real estate holdings, and her pharmaceutical company investments. The words hit the room like a detonation. I feel the blood drain from my face as the magnitude of what I've just inherited settles into my consciousness. $46 million. More money than I could spend in multiple lifetimes, enough to fund my research indefinitely, enough to change everything about how I move through the world. My father's chair scrapes against the hardwood floor as he stands abruptly, his face flushed with an anger I haven't seen since I was a teenager. This is absurd. There has to be some mistake. Mother was clearly not of sound mind when she made these decisions. His voice carries the authority he's used to wielding in courtrooms, but Mr. Patterson remains unflappable, consulting another folder with practiced calm. Actually, Rose anticipated this reaction, Mr. Patterson says, producing what appears to be a psychological evaluation stamped with multiple official seals. She underwent comprehensive cognitive testing 3 months before her death, administered by Dr. Margaret Chen at Massachusetts General Hospital. The results show her mental acuity was well above average for her age group. She also recorded a video message explaining her reasoning, which I'm authorized to play if anyone questions her competency. The room feels like it's tilting on its axis. Everything I thought I knew about my place in this family, about my grandmother's quiet observations, about the value placed on different types of success, has been completely inverted. Miles finally finds his voice, though it comes out strained and higher than usual. Campbell, surely you'll want to redistribute this more fairly among the family. His suggestion hangs in the air like a poorly disguised demand, and I recognize the tone he uses with clients when he's maneuvering them toward decisions that benefit him. But something has fundamentally shifted inside me, like tectonic plates moving into a new formation. For 34 years, I've absorbed their dismissal, internalized their judgment, and somehow convinced myself that their approval mattered more than my own accomplishments. Now, sitting in this chandelier-lit room with a legal document that represents my grandmother's ultimate validation, I feel something I have never experienced before. The certainty that their opinions have no power over my reality. Rose included a personal note for Campbell. Mr. Patterson says, handing me an envelope with my name written in her familiar flowing script. My hands shake slightly as I open it, aware that every pair of eyes in the room is watching my reaction to whatever wisdom my grandmother wanted to leave specifically for me. The note is brief but devastating in its clarity. My dearest Campbell, by the time you read this, you'll understand that I saw everything. I watched them diminish your light to make themselves feel brighter, and I decided that my legacy should amplify the family member who was already changing the world. Use this freedom to never again doubt your worth or apologize for your brilliance. You were always the diamond in our family's rough. Love, Grandma Rose. Have you ever received validation so complete that it retroactively heals years of doubt and diminishment? I fold the letter carefully, feeling a strength I didn't know I possessed crystallizing in my chest like a chemical reaction reaching its perfect balance point. My father's voice cuts through the crystalline silence with the sharpness of a scalpel slicing through tissue. Campbell, you cannot seriously intend to keep all of this money while your family receives scraps. This is unconscionable. The word unconscionable carries particular weight coming from him. It's his favorite courtroom term for describing behavior he finds morally reprehensible. The irony isn't lost on me that he's using it to describe my inheritance of money my grandmother explicitly left me after documenting years of his unconscionable treatment. I stand slowly, feeling every eye in the room tracking my movement like predators watching prey. Dad, 45 minutes ago you called my life's work meaningless. You've spent years dismissing my career, minimizing my achievements, and making it clear that you consider my contributions to this family negligible. My voice carries a steadiness that surprises me, like I'm channeling some of my grandmother's quiet authority. Now, you want to talk about fairness and family loyalty? Miles jumps in with the smooth persuasion tactics I've watched him use on reluctant investors. Campbell, we're family. Surely Grandma Rose didn't intend for this to divide us. She must have assumed you'd share this inheritance in a way that reflects our relationships. So, his practiced charm feels particularly hollow when deployed against someone who's spent decades watching him manipulate family dynamics to his advantage. Jessica nods supportively beside him, though her smile doesn't reach her eyes. She's calculating how much money they've just lost access to. Actually, Miles, I think Grandma Rose's intentions were crystal clear, I reply, tucking her letter into my blazer pocket like a talisman. She documented specific instances of how this family treated me, and she made her decisions accordingly. She didn't assume I'd share anything. She explicitly chose to give her legacy to the family member whose work she valued most. The temperature in the room seems to drop several degrees as the full implications of my grandmother's judgment settle over everyone. Mr. Patterson clears his throat diplomatically. If I may interject, Rose was very specific about potential family pressure regarding redistribution. She included a clause stating that any attempt to coerce Campbell into sharing her inheritance differently would result in the contested party forfeiting their designated bequest entirely. The legal weight of this stipulation hits my father like a physical blow. His courtroom instincts tell him exactly how airtight this kind of documentation would be, and his face reflects the grudging respect of one legal professional recognizing superior strategy from another. My mother finally speaks, her voice carrying the wounded tone she uses when she wants to induce guilt without direct confrontation. Campbell, darling, surely you don't want your grandmother's legacy to be the thing that tears our family apart. It's a masterful attempt at manipulation, positioning me as the one responsible for family discord rather than acknowledging that the discord was created by years of systemic dismissal and favoritism. Mom, this family has been divided for years, I say, surprised by the clarity that comes with finally speaking this truth aloud. The difference is that now the division has consequences. I turn to face all of them, feeling like I'm seeing my family clearly for the first time. Every Christmas, every birthday, every holiday gathering, you've made it clear that Miles's financial success matters more than my scientific achievements. Every promotion I earned was met with lectures about real careers, while every deal he closed was celebrated like a national holiday. The accusations hang in the air like smoke from an extinguished candle, impossible to ignore or disperse. My father's face cycles through various shades of red as he struggles between his instinct to argue and his legal training that tells him I'm documenting behavior that supports my grandmother's documented rationale. Miles looks genuinely confused, as if he's never considered that his achievements might be weighted differently than mine in family dynamics. Privilege has a way of making itself invisible to those who benefit from it. Grandma Rose saw all of this, I continue, feeling momentum building like a successful experiment reaching its breakthrough moment. She watched you dismiss groundbreaking medical research as playing in a laboratory, while celebrating investment portfolios as world-changing achievements. She documented your reaction to my promotion, your commentary during family gatherings, your consistent prioritization of Miles's career over mine. This inheritance isn't arbitrary, it's evidence-based. Jessica finally finds her voice, though it comes out smaller than her usual confident tone. But Campbell, we're still family. This money. It's so much money. Surely there's enough for everyone to benefit. Her appeal to family unity rings hollow when it only emerges in the context of financial redistribution. Where was this concern for family harmony when I was being systematically diminished at every gathering? If you've ever wondered what it feels like to watch years of calculated treatment suddenly backfire in spectacular fashion, it's surprisingly liberating rather than vindictive. I'm not angry. I'm finally free from the exhausting cycle of seeking approval from people who were never going to give it freely. This conversation ends here, I say, my voice carrying an authority I've never used with my family before. Grandma Rose made her choice, and I'm honoring it. 6 months later, I'm standing in the laboratory of the Rose Beaumont Institute for Autoimmune Research, watching my team prepare for the Phase 3 clinical trials that will determine if our lupus treatment becomes available to millions of patients worldwide. The irony of naming the research center after my grandmother isn't lost on anyone. The woman my father dismissed as sentimentally supporting my hobby is now memorialized in a state-of-the-art facility that's attracting top researchers from around the globe. Her $46 million has been transformed into something that will outlive all of us. Hope for people whose immune systems are attacking their own bodies. The aftermath of that December afternoon unfolded exactly as I expected. My father attempted to contest the will, hiring 3 different attorneys before accepting that my grandmother's documentation was legally unassailable. Miles tried a different approach, suggesting family business partnerships that would optimize the inheritance for everyone's benefit. Both strategies failed because they fundamentally misunderstood what had happened in that dining room. I hadn't just inherited money, I'd inherited freedom from their judgment. The most revealing moment came 3 weeks after the will reading, when my father called to suggest a family meeting to work through our differences. When I asked what differences we needed to work through, he couldn't articulate any specific grievances beyond my decision to honor my grandmother's explicitly stated wishes. That conversation taught me something profound. Their anger wasn't about fairness or family unity. It was about losing control over my narrative and my choices. My relationship with Miles has evolved in unexpected ways. Once the initial shock wore off, he admitted something I never expected to hear. "I always knew Dad treated you differently, but I convinced myself it was because your work was too complicated for him to understand, not because he valued it less." His honesty opened a door to a more authentic relationship than we'd ever had. He's still an investment advisor, I'm still a biotech executive, but now we relate to each other as adults with different talents rather than competitors for parental approval. The financial security has transformed my daily reality in ways I couldn't have anticipated. I no longer check my bank account before making decisions about my research projects. When our equipment needs upgrading, I approve purchases based on scientific merit rather than budget constraints. Last month, I funded a postdoctoral fellowship for a brilliant young researcher whose work on rheumatoid arthritis shows extraordinary promise. The freedom to say yes to innovation, to take calculated risks on breakthrough research, feels like using muscles I never knew I had. More importantly, I've stopped seeking validation from people who were never going to provide it freely. My father still doesn't fully understand my work, but that no longer affects how I value my contributions to medical science. My sense of worth comes from the lupus patients who've shown improvement in our trials, from the research papers that change how other scientists approach autoimmune diseases, from the knowledge that my grandmother's faith in me was scientifically accurate. The Rose Beaumont Institute hosts a monthly dinner for families affected by autoimmune diseases, where patients and researchers share stories about living with and working to cure these conditions. Last week, a 42-year-old mother told me that our lupus research gave her hope she'd see her daughter graduate from high school. That conversation, in a room funded by my grandmother's faith in my work, represents the kind of impact that can't be measured in stock portfolios or investment returns. I've learned that family legacy isn't just about money. It's about recognizing and amplifying the values that actually matter. My grandmother understood that changing medical outcomes for millions of people was more significant than maximizing returns for wealthy investors. She saw past surface-level metrics of success to identify work that would create lasting value for humanity. Her inheritance wasn't just financial, it was a message about what deserves support and celebration. The dining room where my father called me useless still exists, but it no longer has power over my self-perception. I can walk into any room now knowing that my worth isn't determined by other people's capacity to recognize it. When you stop performing for an audience that isn't paying attention anyway, you finally have energy to focus on work that actually matters. What would happen if you stopped waiting for certain people's approval and started building a life so meaningful that their recognition becomes irrelevant? The most beautiful inheritance my grandmother left me wasn't money. It was permission to value my own contributions as highly as she did. Some legacies are measured in dollars, but the ones that change lives are measured in the courage to honor your own worth, especially when the people closest to you have forgotten how to see it.